feel like we go through these phases of excitement and optimism, and then you cut that with a feeling of hopelessness, of demoralization, and that is the essence of the black pill. It's a feeling of hopelessness, and I don't mean to wallow in it, because that is not productive. It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help you, but it's important to acknowledge from time to time the reality of life in this society, and if possible, make some adaptations, change your perspective, and find a way to cope, maybe even thrive. That is the cure for the black pill. Because really, in this modern paradigm that we're in right now, I mean, it's kind of like it's been foisted upon us that in the spirit of Western individualism, we're all on our own. And there is really no solace to be found within community or a sense of nationalism or anything like that. For the millennial man, it really is just this materialistic individualism, and it's as shallow as a fucking bird bath, right? But that's what we've been served, and it really starts to make me think, well, hey, I mean, I'm not just a millennial man, I'm a gamer. And in 2021, being a male, straight gamer, unapologetically, is the equivalent of being a political dissident in a way. I mean, you've already shown solidarity with movements like Gamergate, Comicsgate, the fandom menace, the Trump movement. If you don't expressly deny and disavow these, centrist and populist movements, you are going to suffer. You're going to suffer, and you're going to regret ever going against the mainstream woke cultural zeitgeist, which, let's face it, has won. I mean, they have won this round of the culture war, and I'm hoping that this isn't the end. But it just makes me think back to Gamergate in its heyday, how the vibe, what was the atmosphere during those times? Well, I mean, I'm talking like 2015, 2014. Well, we definitely felt like the underdogs as gamers who were standing up against this assault from the media, from the mainstream, and the radical leftist journalist class. We were fighting that war, and we felt like the underdogs, and there was something virtuous about it. It felt heroic. It was fun. It was fun, and there was a lot of optimism because we really wanted to save the industry. We didn't want to destroy it. We weren't trying to destroy it so we could create something new. We wanted to restore the soul of an industry that we loved and we saw very quickly go down the tubes. And being naive millennials, I guess we thought, well, you know what we're going to do? We'll speak out. We'll protest, because that's what we've been told by, the boomers leading us like lambs into the slaughter for our whole lives. Oh, you know what? Get active, organize, right? Like that's how the left do it. But the minute someone like us, libertarians, I guess you could call us, at least at the time, we're not politically activated people, just regular people. We're like, excuse me, we don't give a shit about identity politics or whatever. We don't care. We just want you to stop ruining our hobby, our community. Stop poisoning this well and leave us alone and let us get back to what we enjoy, which is spending our hard-earned money in an industry that is innovative and passionate and fun and positive, and gives us a community of like-minded people, and we're all there because we love video games. That's all we wanted to preserve. But, instead of being allowed to speak and allowed to protest, we got crushed. Absolutely crushed. Censored at every turn, purged from social media in droves, smeared in the mainstream press. The industry itself purged all like-minded individuals, as in true fans of video games. An utter mimetic genocide of any ideas that go against whatever this woke, globo-homo, manufactured mainstream culture is. But even throughout that experience of Gamergate, and even kind of in defeat, I still felt optimistic. I still felt hopeful about the future because I felt like Pandora's box had been opened. And in a lot of ways, that is what happened, because many disgruntled men of my generation decided to get politically activated in response to being attacked by a political and radical extreme faction aligned with the left. So what do we do? In response, a lot of us decided, well, you know what? I certainly don't want to vote for Hillary Clinton. I think I will vote for Donald Trump. Not because I'm some kind of extremist, but because Trump represents basically the same thing that Gamergate represented, but on a national political level. He said, hey guys, remember when the US was awesome? I want to go back to that. Well, I don't know if you were paying attention over the last 4 years, but things didn't really work out too well for old DJT. He was crushed utterly by the same machine that crushed Gamergate, but on a much larger scale. And I feel like after watching the election play out last year, I tried to anticipate, like, okay, so is Trump going to pull some kind of last-minute move? Is Biden going to drop out before the election? And all these different possibilities, these hypothetical scenarios we're all chewing on. I did not anticipate this current scenario at all. It's surreal in a way. It's like a total neutering of the energy behind the Trump movement. Defeat snatched from the jaws of victory after 4 years of utter demoralization from the mainstream media. And the cherry on the cake is that it's like Trump never existed now. Like, we don't speak of him anymore. You have to hand it to these deep state elites and globo homo fucking think tanks. Like, they are good at what they do. They are good at destroying movements. And you look at it now, March 2021, we're all in this strange kind of purgatory as dissidents. I mean, we honestly thought we had a shot. We thought we had a shot at another 4 years of Trump. And not that Trump is a great politician or anything. Not that he's like this game-changing force that will restore America to its glory days, right? He's just going to turn back the clock to 1995. And not only will Gamergate then retroactively have been, that battle will have been won for us, but the US will then enter a new golden age. Like, that's the scenario that even if I didn't believe it myself, I still thought, you know what, there's a chance. There's a chance. It's all now. It's all gone. It's all gone down the drain. And I say this as not only a Gamergater, but as a American nationalist. The black pill is a tougher one to regurgitate this time. As I sit here in the UK, under lockdown, society shut down, international travel here punishable by a £5,000 fine, while the quote-unquote conservative government has just announced that misogyny is now illegal, it's an offense, even though we can't really define what misogyny even is. Is it just disagreeing with a woman? Is it criticizing a woman? I don't know, but as if this country couldn't get any more cucked. It always finds a way. They always find a way. Because at this point, the British people are probably the most profoundly demoralized population in Europe. I mean, like, women in the UK, British women, are the worst combination of narcissistic materialists and just hostile feminist ideologues. Even women that aren't actually politically activated, they still pretend to be. They still post all of this propaganda that is originating in the US. So all of the woke, George Floyd, whiteness, all of this intersectional, cancerous propaganda, well, British women love it. Like, they are on the same train that a lot of American women are on, with the whole fuck the cops, fuck the West, fuck men. Well, British women are eating up all of this, this far left Marxist propaganda coming from US universities. And it's all racialized. And it's fucking hilarious watching the British population self-flagellate about how guilty they feel for the original sin of not only being white, but also the legacy of the British Empire. That really gets their goat here. To the point where now, statues of fucking Winston Churchill are now being defaced. I even saw on social media some thought advocating for the abolishment of ICE. It's like, okay, I think we need to establish ICE first before we can even abolish it. But hey, I'm in favor of that, honestly. That's the nature of this country as a gynocracy. Women in the UK have so much social capital. It's honestly almost comedic at times. Women across the country recently have been discussing the idea of unironically imposing a 6 p.m. curfew on all men because of a recent murder. There was a murder and a woman was killed by, I guess, a white guy, right? A police officer. So instead of going, wow, that's fucked up, maybe we should investigate the police, maybe they should be vetting their officers better. Yeah, what a tragedy. No, the conversation is literally, all men are dangerous scum, and wouldn't the world be a better place if there was no men? And we need to, as a society, we need to reduce the freedoms of men. But it's always white men. It's never an acknowledgement of the very real crimes committed by minorities in this country. You will never hear a feminist critique of the Rotherham grooming gangs or multiple Pakistani child trafficking organizations that operate within the UK. Literally just covered up by the media and also the police, because really the UK has this big stick up its ass about racism, and you will never find a people more susceptible to the charge of racist than you will the average British citizen. Because they don't seem to understand, and I don't think they ever will understand, that when you hear the accusation of racist in the UK, usually it's just code for, well, we don't like white people. We don't like the British Empire. We don't like the history of Britain. We don't like the indigenous peoples of Britain. And we're going to level this constant racialized critique at them, that being white is bad, being British is bad, the British flag is bad, the British identity is bad. That's life in the UK, and I'm an asshole for even living here, but I don't have a choice. I can't leave, I'm trapped. So yeah, I'm blackpilled, guys, and I'm blackpilled about video games too, because they are something that you turn to in times of strife, hard times. Like, hard times call for good video, and that's the way a lot of us coped back in the day. Me especially, absolutely. And I'm not advocating for video game escapism to the detriment of your real life. But to be honest, there really is nothing much that this society that we find ourselves in has to offer us as millennial and Zoomer men. There's nothing in it for us. And historically, Western men were promised and guaranteed a wife, a good job, a decent economy, a culture that's not hostile to their way of life. Whereas we are not even allowed the luxury of decent video games, right? Like, we're not even allowed to enjoy Star Wars. We're not even allowed escapism anymore. We are just forced now to live in this Klaus Schwab Great Reset post-coronavirus bug world. And they don't want us to escape, not even through fantasy. That's what the last couple of generations of Western men are stewing in right now. It's a world of Tinder and OnlyFans. Good luck finding a decent wife in this current paradigm. We're getting screwed big time. And there's always that cliche of, the way the boomers perceive the millennial generation as being spoiled and entitled, right? We get called entitled by almost every different entity within the culture, including journalists. They like to push this narrative as well. But are we not entitled to the same kind of rights as you would offer any other person of any other culture? The right to be proud of who they are, the right to inherit something from the past and to keep the torch of their culture and their civilization lit. Like, is that entitled to expect a future? Is it entitled to expect being given the opportunity to raise a family? Women not to be almost completely brainwashed and told to hate men? Like, as a young man in this society, is it entitled to expect something, the bare minimum? Is that too much to ask? And they're telling us, yeah, that's too much to ask, and we should feel bad about existing. Like, we're not even supposed to cope, we need to suffer. That is what is on their agenda, and it's twisted, it's sick, and it shows you just how hateful wokeism really is. But like back in the late 90s / early 2000s, the cultural subversion of the West was progressing along, albeit in a little bit more of a subtle form than we have today. But a lot of us felt like outsiders, and we had to kind of access a counterculture in order to find our communities. And for me, growing up, it was gaming and it was music, and especially the countercultural music of emo and scene and metalcore and alternative, right? And that was a real big deal for white millennial kids. And I've mentioned it before in previous videos, the death of the emo girl, right? The fact that our women at the time were part of our community, they ended up being subverted and actually turned against the men of their own generation after wokeness became the new fake counterculture. Because you can't have counterculture if the counterculture is in favor of the status quo. But here we are today. That is the fate of the gentleman gamer like you and me. We're in a period where things are looking pretty bleak. And just looking at the industry itself, what is the legacy of Gamergate? Did we have an impact? Did we right the course of this ship? Did we save anything? Well, not by the looks of it. I feel like the industry is worse than it's ever been, and it's normalized the hostility against conservatives, against centrists, libertarians, anyone to the right of fucking Mao has now been declared persona non grata, and the industry now is making it very clear that they have a specific type of person in mind for the future of gaming, and it's gay, it's LGBTQ, and it's not white, and it's heavily politicized. Let's just put it that way. And I guess, I mean, the trans community is kind of the new standard for the industry. It is the ideal consumer and creator identity. And this is not up for debate under pain of banishment. And consequently, I'm blackpilled. I don't really see anything good on the horizon for the industry. I think things are just in continued controlled decline. I'm not excited for any new BioWare projects. I'm not excited about the recent purchase of Bethesda Softworks by Microsoft. I'm not excited about the new Final Fantasy content and the FF7 remake or Final Fantasy 16 even. I'm not excited to play the new Halo Infinite corporate version of Halo, which I used to love. I'm not excited about anything in this industry except, literally except, for Elden Ring, which could end up being a disappointment, and probably will, because that's what we get. Gaming, as far as I'm concerned, is just another facet of the disappointment I feel with almost everything in this modern culture. But I can't give up on it. You know, I can't give up on life, and neither can you guys, because after all is said and done, that is what they want. That is the purpose of the propaganda. It's the purpose of the demoralization. It's that people like you and me, we're just supposed to fade away quietly. We're just supposed to let it all go because we don't deserve it, apparently. We are being told by people that hate us and have hated us for much longer than we even realized that we have zero legacy whatsoever when it comes to our society and the direction of our culture. What happened to creators that really genuinely did want to delight, you know, and to bring joy into the lives of ordinary people? It seems like these days that outlook doesn't even exist, or at least people that do feel like that no longer have a seat at the table when it comes to various entertainment industries and also just the political reality of Western culture and civilization, that nothing in our interests, nothing that would be in our best interest is even allowed to be discussed, let alone implemented.